Alright, so in this video, we're going to start by um, going through how if commands can work and how you can use them, and give you a couple examples of where they can be used. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the general structure of an if command. The way this is going to look is you'll type in if, yeah, very surprising, and then you're going to type in the conditions. You're not actually going to type the conditions, but what you want to compare what's going to happen. And then you'll say here, you'll give the commands if true, else, and then you'll give the commands if not true, and that's it. So that's going to be the general format of how this works. There are additional things we can do, but let's first start out with something this simple. So let's give a classic example of, say, creating a function to calculate a natural log. So if we wanted to create a function that can do just that, what do we do? Well, the first thing we can do is we can say x is equal to, and let's create a input. Let's have a user give an input. Say, to find the natural log of, please enter a value for x. And that'll be the first line. Great. And then I'll say if x is greater than 0, then we can say y is equal to log of x. Else, now you'll notice what you didn't see before, and what I had before is when you type in the correct things here, MATLAB is smart enough to actually recognize if-then statements, and it'll automatically space and tab it over so it's easy to read for us. So we can then say display if it's not greater than 0, it's equal to or less than 0, and you can't do that, so we'll say the input to the log function must be positive. Alright, and do, and there you go, end. And so that's a classic example of an if statement for error checking. So let's just run section to see how this works. Find a natural log of x. Let's say 5, and it's saying, oh boy, you're happy with that. So let's rerun that section. Rerun section and go back here. Oops, go back to the thing and say -5, and it says the log function must be positive, and it's done. So you can see right away the kind of cases that can be made in the if-then statement to see what's going to happen. Now, you can use this as a way of measuring or finding out a number of different things. For example, you're not limited to just one set of logic functions. You can actually have, in this case, a number of comparisons being made sequentially that have different meanings. So let's say age. Let's say input, what is your age? Now, let's say in this case, we're going to use age as a way to determine a person can or can't drive or is eligible for driving. So the first thing we'll say is, well, if age is less than or equal to 16, or let's just say less than 16, then you'll have to say display, sorry, you are still too young. Else if, now we can do multiple comparisons through the else if command. We can actually, and it will run sequentially. Like the first one, it does, if that's true, it does that, and it ends. If it's not true, then it goes to the next one and looks for the next comparison, and can say age is less than 18. And then in that case, I can say display, and cool, but you will need a temp youth license. Else if, and then The only other one we have to worry about is less than, say, 70. Display, okay. Standard license. It is. Else, and then at the final one, it's else. This signals that if all the other positions are not true, then this is the one that gets displayed. And you say display, you must have a special old person license. There you go. Won't do that. That's kind of mean. Special license. Okay, there you go. End. And that is the sequence that you can do here. If we say run section, oops, there. Invalid statement. Where's the invalid statement? Age. If else. Where did I make a mistake? Oh, here we go. I think I see it here. See that. Go run section. And now we can go over what is our age. I'll say it's 55. And, okay, standard license it is. And that's it. And that is the way you can use if statements to generate general or simple logic sequence. All right, so here's a couple of last minute things to consider in the find command, and we'll give an example of. Let's say we're going to create a very simple find command logic sequence where you can say g is equal to 10. And then if I say if, we can say count is equal to 0, if, and I say g is less than 50, then I'm going to want to say count is equal to count plus 1 and display g end. And sure enough, it says count is equal to 1 and 10, and it'll be done. If I say CLC, and I do the same thing, but now let's say what happens if I say g is equal to 30, 55, and 10. What would happen? So in this case, if I say the same sequence, if g is less than 50, and I say count is equal to count plus 1, and I said display g, and what's going to happen? Well, if I hit enter, nothing happened. Why is that? And the reason for that is even though one of these cells is true, when it does the if command, every position in this vector must be true for it to actually register as a true statement. If any one of those is false, it treats it as all false and it won't run it. In general, it's very uncommon that, except for special circumstances, that you'd use the if command on an array like that, where you'd have to have all the values be needed to be positive in order for it to run the study that you'd want. So let's, for example, do it where we have 10, 20, and 30, and we did the same sequence, and this time it should work. And we'll go to count, and we'll do display and end, and sure enough, it worked because it found that every single position was true, and therefore it ran that example. So this is just a quick study of how to use the if command in that logical operator format. And so just one quick check to realize. And beyond that, thank you.